Welcome to El Born Market, in the historic heart of Barcelona. Before discovering what lies beneath this extraordinary building, look up. Designed by Josep Fontserè in 1871 and opened in 1876, the Mercat del Born marked a new era in Barcelona's architecture. Across Europe, the Industrial Revolution was transforming the way buildings could be constructed. Iron and glass made it possible to create vast covered spaces that were lighter, more open and more functional than traditional masonry structures. El Born brought this new architectural language to Barcelona. Its exposed iron framework, soaring roof and generous glass surfaces created what has sometimes been described as a cathedral of iron and glass. And it would become the model for a new generation of Barcelona markets. When El Born Market opened in 1876, it quickly became one of Barcelona's great centers of everyday life. In 1921, it became the city's main wholesale fruit and vegetable market, supplying markets across Barcelona. For decades, this enormous iron structure was filled with merchants, produce, carts, and constant activity. But in 1971, the wholesale market moved to Mercabarna, and El Born closed its doors. Its story, however, was far from over. Before we step into the history beneath our feet, there's something worth knowing if you visit Barcelona. You can enter El Born and see this extraordinary archaeological site from the upper walkway completely free of charge. And unlike many of Barcelona's most famous attractions, it's often surprisingly quiet. So if you're visiting the city, this is definitely one of those places I recommend adding to your list: fascinating, beautiful, and free to discover. But the most extraordinary chapter in the story of El Born began much later. At the end of 2001, excavation work started inside the former market as part of plans to give the building a new life. What appeared beneath the floor changed everything. Archaeologists uncovered an exceptionally well-preserved part of old Barcelona: streets, houses, and traces of everyday life that had remained hidden beneath the market for centuries. The discovery was considered so important that the plans for the building changed. Instead of covering the remains again, the market was restored around them, protecting the archaeological site and allowing us to see this lost part of Barcelona today. Now, let's look at what is actually hidden beneath the market. What you are seeing is not simply a collection of archaeological ruins. This was once a living part of Barcelona. Beneath the enormous iron structure of El Born, around 8,000 square meters of the city have been preserved, an extraordinary fragment of Barcelona as it existed at the end of the 17th and beginning of the 18th century. Look carefully and you can still recognize the shape of the streets. You can see the foundations and walls of houses, workshops and shops, drainage systems, wells and spaces that were once filled with the everyday activity of the city. Archaeologists have identified sections of 9 different streets here, together with the remains of around 60 houses distributed across 11 city blocks. And this is perhaps what makes El Born so fascinating. These ruins are not the remains of a palace, a cathedral, or a monument built for kings. They are the remains of ordinary life. Families lived here, craftsmen worked here, people bought and sold goods, prepared food, met their neighbors, and walked through these streets. Even the objects recovered during the excavations help reconstruct that world. Archaeologists discovered ceramics, glass, objects made from iron, bronze, copper and lead, animal bones, stone objects, and even small traces of wood, fabric, and leather. Large quantities of ceramics were recovered from wells, sewers, cesspits, and the Recamtal, the historic water channel that crossed this part of Barcelona. And remarkably, historical documents have allowed researchers to go even further. In many cases, they have been able to identify the families who actually occupied these houses. So we are not simply looking at anonymous stones. We are looking at real homes, real streets, and traces left behind by people whose lives can sometimes still be reconstructed more than 3 centuries later. But to understand why all of this survived beneath Barcelona, we have to return to one of the most important moments in the city's history. In the early 18th century, Europe was fighting the War of the Spanish Succession. Barcelona eventually became one of the final centers of resistance against the forces of Philip V. The city endured a long siege, culminating on September 11, 1714, when Barcelona finally fell. The consequences for this neighborhood were dramatic. After the war, Philip V ordered the construction of an enormous military fortress, the citadel. To create the fortress and the open defensive area surrounding it, a significant part of this densely populated neighborhood had to disappear. Dozens of streets and hundreds of buildings in this part of Barcelona were affected. Residents were forced to abandon homes that, in many cases, were then demolished. Parts of the neighborhood disappeared from the surface of the city, but not completely. The lower sections of walls, streets and buildings remained beneath the ground. And over time, Barcelona simply continued to grow above them. More than a century and a half later, the great iron structure of El Born Market was constructed directly over this forgotten part of the city. Nobody walking through the busy market could have imagined the extraordinary fragment of old Barcelona that survived beneath their feet. And that is what makes this place so unusual today. We are standing inside a 19th century iron market, looking down at an 18th century city. Two completely different moments in Barcelona's history occupying exactly the same space. And because so much of the original street layout survives, you can do something remarkable here. You can actually read the city. Follow the streets with your eyes. Look at the entrances to the houses. Notice how narrow some of the spaces are. Imagine the buildings rising several floors above these foundations, the workshops opening onto the streets, water running through the Rec Comtal, and hundreds of people moving through a neighborhood that was once full of noise, commerce and everyday life. Today, everything is silent, but the structure of the city is still here. And perhaps that is the most extraordinary thing about El Born. It allows us not simply to learn about Barcelona in 1700, but, for a few moments, to stand above it and imagine the city alive again. Perhaps that is what makes El Born so extraordinary. From the outside, it looks like a beautiful 19th century market. But step inside, and suddenly centuries of Barcelona are revealed beneath your feet. Architecture above, archaeology below, and between them, the story of a city that never stopped changing. It is one of those places that reminds us that sometimes the most fascinating parts of a city are the ones we cannot see from the street. Thank you for exploring El Born with me today. Have you ever visited El Born, or did you even know that this hidden city existed beneath the market? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this journey into Barcelona's past, please give the video a like and subscribe to UrbanEye. There is so much more to discover. See you on the next visit.